A powerful earthquake measuring 7.4 in magnitude tore through western Colombia on Monday morning, and 2 days later, the country is still counting its dead. What began as scattered reports of around 20 fatalities has grown into one of the deadliest natural disasters in Colombian history, with the confirmed toll now passing 250 and officials warning openly that the final number will climb higher still. The quake struck at 7:34 in the morning local time. Its epicenter was located roughly 3 miles, or about 5 kilometers, east of San José del Palmar, a small farming town buried in the mountains of the Chocó department, some 250 miles or 400 kilometers west of the capital, Bogotá. The United States Geological Survey placed the rupture at a depth of around 107 kilometers. Colombia's own Geological Service measured it slightly shallower, at roughly 100 kilometers, confirmed the magnitude at 7.4, and stated plainly that this was the most powerful seismic event recorded anywhere in the country this century. That depth is not a technical footnote. It is the reason this disaster looks the way it does. A rupture 100 kilometers underground does not tear the surface open the way a shallow quake does. Instead, the energy spreads outward across an enormous area, shaking entire departments at once rather than obliterating a single valley. Seismologists have already drawn the contrast with the earthquakes that devastated neighboring Venezuela in late June, which struck at depths of less than 20 kilometers. Colombia was shaken across hundreds of miles simultaneously, which is why the casualty reports came in not from one town, but from a dozen cities at the same moment. The shaking was felt across most of the country and beyond its borders, with reports coming in from Ecuador and Panama, though damage in both was minimal. In Bogotá, alarms sounded across the city, and residents poured into the streets in panic, but the capital was largely spared. The worst of it landed on the western and central departments, and above all on the coffee-growing heartland known as the Eje Cafetero, a region that has lived through this before. In Cali, Colombia's third-largest city and home to more than 2 million people, the mayor confirmed that 95 residents had been killed. Around 40 buildings came down entirely. Witnesses described plumes of dust rising above the skyline as structures folded one after another, and long human chains formed spontaneously in the streets, ordinary residents passing slabs of concrete hand to hand alongside firefighters. 86 people have been pulled out alive in the city so far. Rescue crews were still working through a partially collapsed hospital where patients remained trapped beneath the wreckage. In the department of Risaralda, where the city of Pereira sits at the center of the coffee region, at least 40 deaths were confirmed. Emergency services there were overwhelmed by call volume within minutes, and officials requested reinforcements from unaffected parts of the country. In one Pereira building, 16 people remained trapped for roughly 8 hours before rescuers could reach them. In Valle del Cauca, the governor described the situation as serious and reported 27 deaths across the department, including 3 children. She gave that statement standing outside the University Hospital of the Valley, which had suffered structural collapses of its own. Video verified by international outlets showed medical staff in white coats tending to newborns in hospital bassinets on the pavement outside, one nurse holding an infant in her arms, because the building they had been in was no longer safe to occupy. In Manizales, capital of Caldas department, the mayor confirmed 5 deaths but described damage on a scale that will take months to assess. 60 buildings in the city have suffered total or partial collapse. He said officials had received thousands of requests from residents asking for their homes to be inspected and estimated the work alone would take a month or more. Around 2,000 people have been displaced, a figure he expects to double, with 150 already sheltering in a municipal sports coliseum. Colombia's vice president traveled to Manizales personally to lead a unified command post coordinating the national response. But the most difficult picture to assemble is the one closest to the epicenter. San José del Palmar, a rural town of somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 people, is at this moment cut off from the rest of the country. The single road out of town toward neighboring Cartago is blocked by 18 separate landslides. A community leader in the district of La Italia described homes on outlying farms that were destroyed outright, and others stripped of their roofs, with the town center left without running water or electricity. No deaths have been confirmed there yet. That is not reassurance. It is simply the absence of information. Much of Chocó is reachable only by boat or by aircraft under normal conditions. Communications outages left entire areas without mobile service for hours after the quake. The department's governor has confirmed deaths and well over 100 injuries in the region, along with serious structural damage in Quibdó, the departmental capital of roughly 130,000 people. Engineers, rescue teams, and search dogs have been deployed, but authorities have been careful to say that the true scale of the damage in the epicentral zone remains unknown. The death toll has moved almost hourly since Monday. Early counts put it near 20. By Monday afternoon, it had reached 111, then 132, then 169, then 224 by Tuesday morning, and past 250 by midday. More than 570 people have been treated for injuries. Perhaps the most alarming figure is the one that is not a death toll at all. Families reporting relatives missing on emergency digital databases have pushed that list past 2,700 names, concentrated overwhelmingly in Cali and Pereira. The USGS has issued an assessment putting the probability of a final toll above 1,000 at roughly 1 in 3. The aftershocks have not stopped. Colombia's Geological Service had logged close to 50 seismic events by Monday afternoon and nearly 100 by Tuesday morning. One of the strongest struck the same municipality as the main event, at a depth of 99 kilometers. The agency has warned that this sequence may continue for days, weeks, or even months as the crust around the rupture zone settles back into equilibrium. And emergency officials have told residents in the hardest hit areas to stay out of damaged buildings entirely until engineers can certify them. The government has declared a state of national disaster and mobilized what the president described as the entire military and police apparatus of the country. 7 airports suspended operations. Hospitals, roads, water systems, power grids, and telecommunications have all been disrupted across the affected departments, and official counts put the number of homes damaged or destroyed at roughly 5,000, alongside more than a dozen damaged health centers, dozens of schools, and 18 roads. There is one more detail that gives all of this an unusual edge. Colombia's president, Abelardo de la Espriella, had been in office for exactly 3 days when the earthquake struck. He was inaugurated on Friday. By Monday morning, he was convening an emergency committee, and he has since announced that he will personally supervise recovery operations and establish a command center in San José del Palmar itself, in the mountains, in the town that no vehicle can currently reach. The international response was immediate, with offers of assistance arriving from governments across the United States, South America, Europe, and the Middle East. The U.S. Secretary of State said Washington was monitoring the situation and stood ready to support the Colombian government and its people. The historical context is grim, and Colombians know it well. This same coffee-growing region was struck in 1999 by an earthquake of magnitude 6.2 that killed roughly 1,230 people and left more than 250,000 homeless. That quake was far weaker on paper than Monday's, and this disaster arrives just weeks after 2 back-to-back earthquakes above magnitude 7 in Venezuela killed more than 6,000 people, a catastrophe still fresh enough that survivors in Cali described watching their own city shake and thinking immediately of what they had seen on the news from across the border. Colombia sits along the Pacific Ring of Fire, the horseshoe-shaped belt of subduction zones and volcanic arcs encircling the Pacific Ocean where the majority of the world's earthquakes occur. That geology is not new, and neither is the risk. What is new is the scale. As of the latest reports, search operations continue in Cali, Pereira, Manizales, Armenia, and Quibdó, all of them under the national red alert. Families are still sitting beside the rubble waiting for news. Hospitals across the region are stretched past capacity, and the roads into the mountains around the epicenter are still buried, which means that the number the world is currently reporting is not the final number.